for this week. So this week, Taylor Wetli is joining us from Solinftec. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You got it.
And he's here to talk about their Solix project. So Taylor, I'll pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I will share screen here quick for you guys. I'm not used to Zoom anymore, so give me one sec. All right. Are we able to see my screen there?
You're all
Yes.
good.
Okay, great. Well, pleasure to be here, guys. Been looking to join one of these calls, so glad to kind of run through a little bit more about Solinftec and specifically what we're doing, specifically in North America. As some of you guys may know, we have a presence mostly in the Western Hemisphere. Originally started in Brazil. We've been around going into 19 years now, and we have a variety of solutions from fleet dispatch management, thinking about how do we create a digital twin and use AI to help our customers, our farmers, our ag retailers, even crop protection companies be more efficient in the field. And so a lot of our early growth was focused on that, specifically in sugarcane. How do we look at an entire fleet, a large organization, and help them become more efficient by using AI, using equipment monitoring to dispatch that more efficiently, reduce stop time, and everything that comes with that. So that's really what we've been focused on the first 10 years of our company. From there in 2019, we set up shop in West Lafayette, Indiana, right around Purdue University in the Midwest there. And early on, we're still focused on how do we help customers across the Midwest in the US optimize their fleet. So when is the optimal time to apply different chemicals based on that chemical label, also that weather window, that field location. So factoring in all of those models using our AI kind of before it was such a buzzword that it is now. And so very focused on that early on and continuing to scale that on the efficiency side. From that, over the last really 4 years now, we're going into our fourth year of commercial expansion with Solix. We begin scaling that piece of the business as well. How do we now, after we've been looking at what's going on in an operational perspective, how do we now think about that from the agronomic in the field perspective? And so that's what I'm going to kind of run through a little bit more on the Solix side here. Here's just a visual of some of our customers, a smaller presence in Canada, looking to continue to grow that over the coming years. Still a lot of our concentration in North America is throughout the Midwest, focus in corn and soybeans, but we do see a lot of opportunity with this technology in wheat, other crops like cotton as well, sugarcane, but continuing to expand that as we do grow. And so, kind of delving more into specifically the Solix platform and what the focus is with that. I kind of mentioned some of those early solutions because they do tie in to this platform. We were again understanding what's going on at the operational level, but at the agronomic, that's what we were really missing for our customers. And so we began building a product that it was first just a scout. Can you have something that is constantly at the field, understanding what's going on, navigating that field, really that AI agent in the field for the ag operation. From that, we quickly scaled it into other layers of the solution. But the key focus early on is if you look back, 100, 150 years, most farmers were constantly going to the field, understanding what's going on at really a plant by plant level, constantly there in touch with it. As we've scaled, equipment's gotten bigger. It's been more difficult to continue to have that close connection with the field. And so that's a really big goal of the technology is creating an autonomous agronomist and applicator in the field. So I got a slide here where we can kind of see the progression of the technology. Early on the bottom right, you can see just a prototype unit being in the field, scouting, understanding what's going on, solar powered. From there, we progressed to a commercial scouting model. And then from there, what was born was what we commercialized in 23. And so it's a scouting sprayer, a very much smaller unit, which we're seeing a lot of in autonomy, but something there collecting information, understanding what's going on, able to constantly be in the field with a low touch point from the customer. And so this is what just some high level pieces about the technology. We're moving very slow across the field, about a mile an hour. We're strategically slow. That way we can more think about that swarm concept, but we're understanding different data layers, like where all those weeds are throughout the field. What is our stand count? Having that agent there, collecting the weather conditions, corresponding with crop height, all those kinds of things are really just telling the story of what's happening in the field throughout the entire season. And I'm sure with this group, you guys have seen a lot of this technology and what it looks like kind of under the hood, but I always like to throw this in here, just showing what our Alice AI is doing. So, for instance, on the left, we're doing a stand count there, counting each individual soybean plant, and then also collecting the information of where all those weeds are and georeferencing those within the system. We have both a web page and a mobile app that houses all this information. So you can imagine all of the data sets and the information and hopefully the actual insights that we're now drawing for our growers and they're able to collect now as we kind of go in year over year of telling the story at a plant by plant level, what's going on in the field. Here's just a visual of what this looks like in practice. It's meant to be a tool for the agronomist, for the grower, really to understand those different data layers and that they're, if you go out and scout a field, we're often not going across the entirety of that field. And so the robot is able to be there and really closely monitor that entire field throughout the whole season. And so transitioning really into what is our core product now, you can see here all of those items that I mentioned on the scouting side, our sprayers are still doing, but now we're also actually executing on the task of spraying those weeds. And so still similar metrics that we discussed earlier and similar data collection regarding germination, plant nutrition, crop height, things like that. But now we're actually in the field spraying those weeds as they emerge using our own targeted application. And I'll get more into some
Okay.
of the technical specifics there. Sorry, I think I heard a little something. Was there a question there? Okay.
No, sorry. Just a reminder, folks, please keep your mics muted during the presentation. Thanks so much. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yep, no problem. So really, I call this the rolling residual in the field. We want to be going over that acreage every roughly 7 to 10 days, dependent on different geographies and weed pressure. Sometimes that's up to 14 days, but spray those weeds when they're small for two reasons, two core reasons. One, much easier to kill, water hemp, added other weeds that are issues too, but at a smaller height versus a foot or two. Also lowering that seed bank, but then also we can optimize that chemical input as well when we're spraying that weed when it's got a smaller biomass. And so this is what this really looks like in practice. Running over that field every 7 to 14 days, killing those weeds as they emerge with the goal of getting that crop to canopy. And so there's a number of different data layers that are also collected as we're constantly going across that field scouting. We want to be even in the field scouting ahead of emergence, just understanding what's going on throughout the entire field. So this is a little bit of a contrast to more of maybe a two-pass program. We're making more passes with these particular units. And getting into just some more of the technical pieces of it, we have 4 solar panels across the top, front wheel driven motors, a 40-foot boom across the front. 8 cameras control that boom. Each camera control 3 nozzles, and then we have independent nozzle control. So we're just spraying those weeds as we see them. On the underside of the unit, a common question is where are the tanks? We have 2 tanks tucked up under here, so it's a dual tank system that will self-agitate automatically based on different products. This subset of cameras as well are doing different scouting measurements, and then everything runs off this lithium ion battery. So the solar panels charge that battery, and it continues to run in the field. Much lighter unit, just a little bit over 1,600 pounds, fully loaded, and then it runs off data system. Here's just more of a visual of the experience from the consumer. We have the mobile app and the web app where we can hop in and see the live feed of the unit move, and then we can also see the Alice AI. How that works is we're doing essentially a 7-point check, validating that those weeds are there before we fire those nozzles. That can be adjusted to spray more conservatively or more liberally as needed. But that's just really a visual right there of those nozzles firing. You can see once we turn red, we're firing where those weeds are. So just a side by side of traditional versus Solix, what's we're seeing mostly with a lot of our customers is they're transitioning with this technology from, again, a multiple pass program versus a one or two pass program. There's that opportunity for chemical optimization. As we're spraying less product, there's also that potential to reduce drift. But really, just to summarize, the Solix unit really the key to this technology is spraying early and often, continuing to maintain that field and spray them before those weeds get out of hand. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen as well the as applied maps of targeted application machines. Looks much different than the as applied that we're used to with broadcast, but here you can see all of the specific dots where we've actually sprayed. This was a very clean field, smaller field. We saw a 94% chem reduction there over 3 passes. What's really interesting to delve into is that weed infestation percentage. Just around 1% of the entire field in this use case was weeds. And then what we did respray with that multi-pass, it was either 0.1% or 0.2%. Now, on the other hand, here's a much weedier field. So still a pretty solid chem reduction, but this had more passes and a higher weed infestation. Really interesting though on this data side, and why we think scouting is so important is you can start to, have a really interesting understanding of the field. Why is there more weeds in that area? Likely because of a higher water table. You can start to even year over year see where your weeds typically emerge in season. Often it's around the end rows, but things like that. And then the whole goal of this multi-pass program is don't let that weed go to seed and to lower that seed bank year over year as well. On the scouting side, we're doing, again, some of those items I mentioned, like stand count. In this particular instance, you can see the stand count across this field and the spacing. And then you can actually, within the system, delve into where your skips and doubles are. So on the far left, you can see the AI is detecting where those skips are. And then that is a way for the grower to, validate emergence, validate different decisions, like maybe they're adding new closing wheels to their planner, items like that. We're starting to see what we can really do with that scouting data and relate that to actual asset decisions on the farm. And again, we do have a closed looped, I don't know if I mentioned that, but a single plumbing on this system. However, the goal and what we can now do is do a broadleaf or a grass only mission. And so with that dual tank system, over time, there's that opportunity to put different chem mixes in there, run dual plumbing, and maybe spray a broadleaf killer or a grass killer, or even get more precise just to spray, go out there and just spray volunteer corn. And so a lot of this targeted application technology is starting to enable OEMs to be much more precise with their technologies and deliver that to the customer. And what really brings this all together to make this a complete solution is the refill station. So this is something we are launching in 2026 with our customers. It basically automates the entire refilling process. So the unit will go to its refill base station once it is whatever percentage that you set empty, and it will back up to the unit. The refill base station will then take control of the sprayer. You can see we got a number of different actuators on there, a camera that's zeroed in on the blue circle, and then it will automatically make that connection to refill that product. Both systems, again, will automatically agitate to keep that product good. But now we're thinking about, all right, now you're just refilling a 250-gallon tote versus a robot that has 56 gallons tank capacity. So this enables one, the optimization of the grower's time. But in addition to that, we're starting to think about, all right, how do we really start to spoon feed different products through a smaller unit like this? A lot of the limiting factors with larger machines and in general in ag is time. But if you have units that are constantly at the field, can you start to spoon feed a different product throughout the season, whether that be a fungicide, a micro, a biological, maybe at a lower rate, um, but you can do that at the optimal time in the growing season for the crop. And so those are really the next data layers that we're marching towards as we look to um, really look to have an agent again in the field, optimizing inputs while with the overall goal at the end of the day for us always is how do we help that grower increase yield. If anybody's interested, little QR code there to our website to learn more. But yeah, there's just an overview on the Solix platform.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Taylor. That was great. Um,
That's it.
I'll open up the floor to questions from anybody in the group.
I'll start off quick. How do you can you operate 24 hours a day or do you have to stop at night or how long your batteries last? So how's your 24/7 cycle time?
Yeah, good question. Typically, we're not with customers operating at night just due to the efficacy of the products we're applying. We do have the capacity to run all the way through the night and do applications, but we're just not doing a lot of that. We do see some that as a potential opportunity down the road to increase that efficiency of the machine.
Nevin.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the presentation, Taylor. Could you expand a bit further on the reduction in costs that you're seeing or getting evidence from relative to traditional practice, broadcast, traditional spray equipment, both on an operational standpoint, OpEx, but also the capital investment required as well?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Evan. So I didn't even touch on the price point of our machines, but our machines are MSRP $50,000 per. Each one is managing around 350 to 400 acres. And what are a lot of the customers, whether they be an ag retailer or a farmer, are justifying it on is on the chemical savings and then the scouting. So optimized scouting. What's easiest to justify it by is just the chem savings, and that's really what we're measuring it on. There's a lot of different other ways to slice it as we think about a lower maintenance cost. There's like four research on this, so very simple. Lower maintenance costs, lower fuel costs, the reduction in time in hours with the auto refill base station. So a lot of those are something that we're building the data layers to factor in. And then the opportunity for yield potential is something that we're not quantifying either. So with all of that, and kind of excluding, yield potential and some of the maintenance costs, we're looking at around, for the grower perspective, around a 3-year return based on optimization of inputs mostly.
Excellent. Thanks, Nevin and Taylor. Chuck, go ahead.
Oh, I think my question was somewhat similar. I was trying to I was trying to do the math in my head. Excuse me. Do you have like, are you guys working with like GMO crops? Are you working in the non-GMO market? Just doing the math. I question that and as to which market this would be better suited for. And then my follow-up to that is are farmers comparing this to, like green eyes or See and Sprays and which are offering similar things and what kind of response do you hear on that in that comparison to just something bigger and
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Chuck. So on the first initial question regarding crop types, we're mostly operating in corn and soybeans. We're not specifically doing, a lot of non-GMO versus GMO. We actually probably have more crops with genetics, GMO crops, particularly in corn and soybeans. But we do see a big opportunity for non-GMO as well, particularly like non-GMO soybeans, where often there's not as I'd say as good of a suite of chemical products available for non-GMO. And sometimes with some of those products that the growers are being forced to use to maintain the field, they're seeing a yield drag where they could set back those beans a little bit. So we're seeing that as a growing piece of our business, but we are still operating in both crops. And then to that second point, um, we do get that question a fair amount. Like, how do you compare to a larger OEM or a larger rig rather that has a targeted application technology on it? And we're kind of flipping a lot of that on its head in our product. It's a little bit different than that, in that we want to sell you a swarm of equipment, right? Like,
Mhm.
we also think the scouting piece is very important to the overall platform. And so um, I think, there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice the comparisons amongst that. But we obviously think the smaller units offer a lot of a bit of potential regarding the scouting, and that's going to be a key piece of it long term as we think about AI. And so having something there that's constantly there is very important. If you do have a larger rig and go out and spray, often they're broadcasting with that also a residual, or often just spraying, maybe a contact in there and coming back. So they compare, I don't want to speak for all of our consumers. They compare in a lot of different ways on price point and such. But I think how it differentiates having a smaller unit constantly there is if you do go through and spray that weed and then something arrives another 7 days later, um, we're there to come back and spray again. With a larger rig, there can be a challenge of really finding that optimal time to spray there. So I don't know if I exactly answered your question, but those are kind of the factors that are being considered for customers there.
No, that's fine because I was just doing the math. Like a GMO herbicide program typically is $25-30 an acre of herbicide costs. So I was just doing that math in the back of my mind as to what those dollars look like. So, because I've been following your company, for quite a few years, and I've been kind of eager to ask that question.
Yeah, yeah. So as you kind of think through the chem piece of it, we're seeing around an 85% to 90% chem reduction. We're seeing, up to 97%. Then depends on a lot of different factors, but a lot of guys are seeing returns in that they can, with something that's constantly at the field, they can even maybe potentially cut some of that residual cost. And so that's how they can get a quicker return there.
Excellent. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, great presentation, Taylor. Can you comment a little bit about your kind of commercialization progress? How many units out there? How is that going? Because we've kind of been tracking your company for quite a few years. So,
Yeah, so I can speak in depth to that. We've been limited scale rollout since 23. That's when we commercially launched it. Small sample size, Indiana and Illinois and Brazil kind of operating in tandem. Rolled it out in the US first. We actually do some operations up around Saskatchewan, Canada, that I can't speak as well to as our Canadian team could, but we've been limited scale for a reason. We want to continue to check the box. We don't pretend to have everything perfected yet. It's autonomy, regulation is going to change, the product's going to evolve. So we've done that so we can stay really close to our customers and continue to evolve the platform. So we've kind of stair-stepped that progression where going into 26, we'll be in over a dozen states in the US, have around over 100 and some units, and then have about the same amount down in Brazil. So around a couple hundred units running, give or take. And then going into 27 is when we're really going to ramp up production more.
and what kind of go-to-market strategy then are you guys thinking?
Yeah, we have really three core customer types, maybe four, including academia and the research side. Another one being our seed and crop protection CP companies, our ag retailers, and then our farmers. And so the buckets kind of different for each one there as we think about like the ag retail side. A lot of them are using our software. And so if you look across an entire operation of mixed fleet where you have large machines, small machines, maybe drones, um, some of these fields that an ag retailer is applying on, they know they're less efficient on with a 120-foot boom. Doesn't make a lot of sense in certain use cases to do that. One's really far away, et cetera. So the model with them is more of a mixed fleet where the robot fits in within our software. We're managing all of that as well as having units there. On the grower side, selling direct to them, and then the crop protection side. How do we really focus on accelerating, bringing products to the market, bringing seed to market, bringing chemical, having something, in-depth phenotyping, scouting. So those are the core buckets there. And we're going to market selling direct to those customers.
I'm smiling when you mentioned Saskatchewan. We met Leo. Say hi to him
Yeah.
for us.
Okay, I can do that.
Probably 6 years ago,
Okay.
and he experienced the Saskatoon winter. Young Brazilian guy wanted to move to Canada.
Uh-huh.
Thought
Good for him.
Saskatoon was a good idea. So I was always impressed with him sticking it out and moving to Saskatoon. So say hi to him for us. And yeah, if there's anything we could do to support you guys in Canada, hunt us down.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Will do. And yeah, he's back in Brazil now, globetrotting a lot all over the world. But he said great things about Saskatoon. I haven't made it up there yet, but I've heard it's a cool area.
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Good job, Taylor.
Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. David.
Um, how this you may not have done these calculations, but how does this compare to drone-based see and spray in precision agriculture? And the follow on to that is there a role for drone scouting, drone mapping as part of your integrated system?
Yeah, I to be transparent, David, I'm not as familiar with some of the drone see and spray applications happening. What I've seen more of is, the fungicide application being broadcast still. Um, so I'd be, I guess, interested to learn more about that. I probably can't give you a good answer on that comparison. But I do think there's some opportunity to collaborate together with drones on even the scouting side, being more precise. If you think about a true future of autonomy, maybe you have drones that are going out and detecting things early, and then they're triggering to the system, and the robots going and executing on the task. They're collaborating together. In the near term, we've done some different things regarding line verification with drones. So when you're going out for those planning lines, we rolled out this last season discovery mode, so we don't necessarily as much require a drone. Uh, the discovery mode is where the unit will go out there and visually plan its own route and change and just stay within the rows. But I do think there's definitely collaborations down the road on the drone side. Speaking to some crazy ideas we've thought about, is even if you're on a massive field, some of these larger fields in Canada, could you have a drone refill a robot in the future? Kind of a little far out there, but some of those things, seem crazy until they happen, right?
Um, there was, I think you've touched a little bit on this, but there was a question in the chat. Would you be able to speak about directly with John Deere's Seek and Spray? And are you competing with them?
Um, there's not a lot of autonomous competitors focus as much in what we are doing. There is more companies like Deere See and Spray, Green Eye that are doing more comparable things to what we're doing. So I would say in some ways we do compete with them in regard to maybe a customer could be getting a performance upgrade kit for their Deere for See and Spray versus getting a handful of these units. Um, but we do have customers at the same time that have See and Spray machines and also have robots, so they can be complementary as well.
Excellent. Chuck, back to you.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily a question for Taylor. It's more of a kind of a statement or an observation. Um, because we have an ag retail business as well, and one of the things that we have noticed from the ag retail world and is that there's been little incentive for retailers to adopt technology like this. And the reality is that the farmers pay a price per acre, to remove the weeds, and whether you remove 85% of the chemicals or not is kind of irrelevant. And so some of this is having to convince the farmer that reducing the chemical usage is actually a good thing. I might sound a little backwards, but the reality is that if I'm being paid, you know, $12 an acre for doing custom spraying, no farmer is going to pay me any more per acre to use a See and Spray nozzle, um, even though it saves the farmer money. If anything, the farmer is going to want to pay us less. And the reality is that those technologies cost a fortune. So it's kind of an upside down market. Um, and so the and so I'm just it's one of these things where I'm sold hook, line, and sinker on the smaller swarm robots, Taylor. Like I think that's where we need to go. But trying to convince the growers that that's the way to go has been super challenging. And I think the evidence of John Deere just releasing a 2,000 gallon tank on their sprayer, um, and that kind of stuff is kind of showing where some of the farmers' heads are at. So how do we move that needle, Taylor? That might be a good question for you. Like, how do we actually, you know, move that needle and say this is smaller, lighter, more
Mm-hmm.
precision. Like, how do we
Yep.
convince people of that?
Yeah, it's a great question and accurate observation. On the ag retail side, we work with a variety of them as customers. I was actually just presented to some ag retailers in Nashville yesterday, talking about this exact technology. How do we sell this to the grower while the ag retailer can still obviously make money with some of their margin being large percentage of their margin being cut from the chem side. And there is that somewhat of a transition from the retail perspective of delivering inputs at a margin to delivering a result to the field, a clean field. But then what I think in general in ag, that has been a struggle to for the grower to pay for is that knowledge. And a retailer has a team of very, very talented account managers and agronomists that know products very well. So when you have a unit constantly there, how do they help that grower push yield through all of those agronomic insights? Also, at the same time, push, not push, but upsell other products as well, whether that be a fungicide micro, because you understand what's going on in the field. And so that's some of the goals of the progressive retailers to do that. And how do they make money with new technology? And so that's a piece of it. But I think the big rock is like you're describing, is there's a lot of benefits to utilizing targeted application, less of an active ingredient load on the soil. What is the impact on that soil year over year? Is there yield opportunities? We're seeing some good use cases of yield opportunity. We're not, going out there and marketing it per se, but we're working with the universities to continue to understand that. And so I think that's going to be a piece of it, is being able to show at the end of the day the yield opportunity. That's going to be what moves the needle. How exactly we present that and convey that accurately and check all those boxes, I think is a tougher task, but I think that's what can really move some of this targeted application technology forward, is if you can more um, strategically apply those products with the goal at the end of the day of increasing yield. So um, that's our goal, is use precision to help them expand that margin at the end of the day through a higher yield.
Right. And then I think one of the things that in the retail space that we've done a terrible job of is we've given that agronomy advice for free.
Agree. Yep.
And which is why every company that has come forward with a piece of software for scouting struggles financially, because farmers are like, well, why would I pay $2 or $3 or $10 an acre for this? I've got it for free all these years. And I think as retailers, we've kind of need to assess what that value is, and sort that out, and really try to um, communicate that to the customers.
hmm Definitely. And I think to kind of add to that, in the age of AI, who knows where all of this goes, not acting great about artificial intelligence, that trusted agronomic advisor, I think, becomes even more essential, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I think it's just, how does a retailer position themselves with that?
Perfect. In the interest of time, I will cut us off at David. So I'll let David ask his question, and then we do have a few agenda items we'd like to get through. So go ahead, David.
Okay. You may have covered this. Maybe I missed it. I don't think I did. But what's the sweet spot in terms of your case application, your customer? So in other words, is it like it's a soybean farmer with 5,000 acres? They buy 20 units, and that's kind of the gives you the easiest ROI and the most reliable setup, and you want as many customers like that as possible. So tell me what your ideal customer is. What are they going to buy, and how is this thing going to operate?
So on the ideal customer size, we don't as much relate to the acreage size in that it's one per 300 to 400 acres essentially. So you can kind of factor that in based on there's a lot of other variables in there. For instance, a lot of our growers are still using a broadcast for the pre. This takes over as the rolling residual. So from an asset side, if you're a farmer that farms say $2,000 or 2,000 acres and you have an ag retailer do your pre. Um, it's even simpler math because you could buy 3 or 4 of these machines, have a optimization of your time inputs, and then also not have to carry that weight of a larger sprayer. And so that's where the math is easiest. But it really isn't dependent on size. Crop wise, corn and soybeans are the main focused ones. If we are running in, say, non-GMO beans, you can have a quicker return as well if you start to factor in some of the yield opportunities there. So I would say like the ideal customer, though it applies to a lot of different ones, isn't dependent on size, but it could be a farmer that doesn't particularly own a large machine right now, and they farm non-GMO and they get a fleet of these.
Excellent. Everybody, thanks so much for your great interaction and your great questions. Taylor, thanks for your great presentation and answers. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning.
Absolutely.
I saw that you dropped your email address in the chat there. So if anyone is interested in connecting with Taylor outside of the call, I hope I can speak for you when I say feel free to shoot him an email and
Definitely.
get connected. All right. So moving through our agenda, there are a couple of things we wanted to cover. Our AgRobotics Working Group booth at the London Farm Show. We have an opportunity on March 4th, the first day of the show, to give some of our booth space to some different companies who might want to come to the show for just a single day. The goal for this is companies who maybe couldn't commit to the full 3 days, smaller companies who weren't able to afford the booth cost, things like that. So we have 6 booth spaces that will be able to fit within our booth. It's just for the single day, March 4th, the Wednesday. Um, but we'd be happy to have some tables and chairs and give some different organizations or companies an opportunity to have a presence at the show, um, even if they thought they might not be able to. If that is something that is of interest to anybody, please reach out to myself or to Ashley. We'd be happy to host you on that day. Um, we can't do all 3 days because the second day is our student competition, and on the final day is our in-person working group meeting. So on that Friday, March the 6th, we're going to be hosting this meeting, but live and in person in London at the farm show. We're going to set up some staging and some seating for our guests inside our booth. So we're working on lining up who our speakers are going to be, but we're excited to be able to bring the farm show and the working group together, like similar to how we did last year, and just give everybody an opportunity to meet in person and check out the show, and it should be a great time. So keep an eye and an ear out for more details on that as we firm them up. But definitely mark your calendar for March 6th to be in person. If you are able to come. Obviously, we know not everybody can make it. Perfect. With that, I'll pass it over to Ashley. She'll have a couple of updates regarding the Canadian AgRobotics and AI Summit.
Thanks, Dan. So for the Canadian AgRobotics and AI Summit, we're also looking for a couple of either startups or exhibitors to exhibit during the summit as well. So if you are interested in that, especially if you have any robotics equipment you want to show off to the group as well, reach out to myself and we can chat through that and then talk about what that could look like as well. So I believe we'll have 6 to 10 spaces available. So if you are interested, please let me know, and then I can walk through some of the details with you as well. And then on top of that, again, tickets are available. So if you go onto our website at agroboticswg.com, you can order your tickets online, or we can also send out the email again that went out earlier this week.
Perfect.
Back to you, Dan. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. Um, excuse me. Excellent. So just before the official meeting started, there was a few people chatting regarding the Future of Food conference that happened this week in Ottawa, as well as Kane's Fireside Chat along with that. Just looking to see if anybody had any highlights, anything they want to pass on regarding that show, your opinions. I heard it was great. Ashley had nothing but good things to report back to me. So yeah, I would just like to hear anyone's opinions if they have them to share. And if not, that's fine too.
Joe, did you want to touch on the announcements that they made?
Yeah, so the day before they'd gotten a number of financial institutions together. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do this, but the government really wants, with FCC, to invest in agriculture innovation and market diversification. So not sell so much to the US, sell to other countries. FCC's committed $2 billion of investment to venture capital, innovation, big numbers. And then the other banks, including people like Royal and the investment community, have, I would say, committed another $5 billion. So those numbers are so big that it's hard to get it down to the grassroots. So we'll see how that works. At the summit, we've invited a number of venture capitalists to attend and present, and so we'll try to stay as close as we can to that money, and then complement that with the groups like Kane and OCI and Sengen, and so try to get resources to our to our founders and to our startup companies. The other good news this week was Yana with Upside closed a $7.5 million investment round. So congratulations to her and the Upside team for getting that done in a tough fundraising environment. So and part of that investment in the announcement, if you see it, the founders of ClearPath committed to investing in that round. So she's got some help with the Waterloo Robotics Group up there, and hopefully she's going to come to speak at the conference. the summit. So the summit's going to sell out quickly. So I encourage you, if you're coming, get your ticket, because just chatting with people up in Ottawa, there's going to be a lot of folks from out of town attending, because it's a hot area. So anything else, Chuck? What did I miss?
Oh, I think that was good. And Joe and I were invited to a supper, and really it was with the FCC team, looking at how do we encourage adoption in the space? What pieces are missing, and really the role of the working group, the role of the innovation farms, how that all kind of fits together. So I think that was definitely a highlight of attending. Um, and the Minister of Ag was there, pledging some support. There's some mixed messages, not mixed emotions, I think, in Ottawa, just with some of the service cutbacks that were happening. So trying to walk both sides of that fence. I know the government staff are both excited to see new opportunities, but disappointed to see cutbacks at the same time. So when Joe says it's a challenging time, it is challenging, and we'll see how things go. It
Yeah,
was a sold
Nevin.
out, and it was a sold out crowd. I think what was there, like over
Yeah,
1,000 people. That's where I
yeah,
got my sickness from, somewhere up there.
yeah. Good crowd. Nevin, any comments too? Nevin was with us, and you might have some additional thoughts or
Yeah,
observations.
the only thing I would add, Joe, maybe to complement your points on the announcement of the additional capital available for the sector. Um, I think the devil will be in the details in terms of actually how it gets deployed or what sectors it actually goes to. I had several discussions with FCC staff later and through the event, and they'll still have minimum check sizes that will exclude a lot of SMEs from really participating in their venture activities. So, as an example, they're really targeting growth companies. So that means a minimum check size of 5 million. So we'll have to really see how this actually gets developed for implementation and who actually would be able to access some of this capital. But it's positive news for the sector. I think we need to reflect on that, which is tremendous. But again, the devil will be in the detail.
Yeah, good points. Well, we're trying to stay close to FCC. They know we exist. They want to support this. FCC and the government at all levels want to support the robotics and innovation and AI and all that stuff. So I think we're in the right place at the right time. We just need to figure out how to connect the dots so that our companies can grow and thrive and be relevant.
Excellent. Thanks for all the updates and all the information. Much appreciated. All right. That is bringing us to just about the end of our time here. I'll give a chance if anybody sort of I guess a quick roundtable. If there's anybody who had any news or questions or anything they'd like to talk to the group on. Conrad, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I just want to take the opportunity to quickly, next week there is the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Conference in Niagara Falls, and we're speaking at 10:30 on Thursday about our project last week. Kevin Howe from Howe Family Farm in Aylmer and myself, we're going to showing why UVC, what the technology was used, the outcome of that test that we run there, and then basically the next steps. And then also on Tuesday, the 17th, BGO actually has their whole conference and their own thing at the same time. If anybody goes to that, there will be a roundtable at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on robotics and automation as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Conrad. And yeah, thank you for mentioning the fruit and veg convention. Completely slipped my mind to mention it. Yes,
Yeah,
that
sorry,
is
now
next.
I'm speaking at the roundtable, of course. That's why I kind of mentioned here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
thanks.
so that is next week, Wednesday and Thursday, the 18th and 19th. Chuck will be there with a booth with Haggerty. Ashley and myself will be there. So we're excited to be there again this year and say hello to some people who we usually only see online. So it's always a good time.
Perfect.
All right. That'll bring us to the end of our meeting for this week. Once again, I just want to say thank you to Taylor. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us and presenting. Everyone, thanks for your great questions and interaction. Have a great weekend. Hopefully, we'll see you at the conference next week. And if we don't, then we will see you next Friday.